Greetings and salutations, friends. I am Jeremy Tank, and if you are watching this, I am your brand guy. What does that mean? That means you've got someone on your side and in your corner to talk about crap about your brand. And your brand is a lot more complicated, experiential, driving, purpose-filled, fun, flavorful, zesty than you ever imagined it could be. Because see, your brand is like your reputation. A brand is what other people say about you. And everything that you are, everything you do, everything you say, every song that you sing reflects on you and reflects how other people see you. But to make things even more complicated, people don't see you for who you are. In fact, you don't see you for who you are. You are a manifestation attempting to make decisions, make choices to the best of your current experience, whatever that is. And trying to figure out your brand requires someone from the outside to help you understand who you are, why you are trying to go towards some kind of future. Because let me tell you this, when you find your why, when you find your purpose, when you have that driving thing that when the dark night of the soul grabs you, shakes you, and holds you down, you're like, I don't know why. This is why. That's what gives you grit, purpose, drive. Having a reason beneath simply being and doing helps you when things get rough. And really what we see is that people respond to this. Simon Sinek says that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Having a drive, having a purpose, having a reason simply for being and doing the things that you do is incredibly important to you as a person, to you as an employee, to you as a business owner, to you just in general, right? So I thought I was going to give some of these Facebook Lives a little bit of a break. And then last week, or weekend, I sat down and I started sketching and writing and just kind of filled out a bunch of pages. So I guess I'm here to share more stuff with you guys. Exciting! Today, I want to talk about the active experience. And the active experience is what can be summed up as this. All of this. Hi, Teresa. Yeah. So the active experience is what would be termed now. This is Eckhart Tolle's now. This is Ram Dass's be here now. Anything that you are doing now fits into your active experience. So if something is to happen a minute from now, or I ask you a question a few moments from now, that is what's happening then. Got it so far? You cannot make your active experience about then. Your active experience is only what's happening here and now. It is the active thing pulling your thoughts and your cognition, your consciousness, your creativity, your imagination, your drive, your gumption, your pain, your sorrow, your everything into who you are right this minute. And that is what affects your brain, your mind, your consciousness, your perception. And we've discussed a couple of different times that perception creates reality for you. And that all of us are really living distinct realities. And I know that's a really hard thing to kind of imagine because we're told that we're all living in the same world, that we have to share the same world, that we have to resonate and communicate and collaborate with everyone because we're all on the same planet, and that is absolutely true. But you can't live in my head, and I wish you could. It's fun. And I can't live in your head. We cannot experience each other's perceptions of reality. Fun side note, there's some virtual reality experiments, virtual reality psychology experiments going on right now to actually test how people can experience another person's reality. Because it controls what they see, what they hear, and the experience coming in through that and they're transposing one person's reality for another so that they essentially swap. And what they find in the mind is that the mind acclimates quickly and understands that what it perceives, including touch, is real. So this is yet another way that we're confirming the whole idea of the quantum field, the quantum theory, the observer really creating the experience. Because even when fed the experience of another person through virtual reality, through highly controlled virtual reality, what we're seeing is that the identity of the player, the experimentee, the person wearing the goggles, shifts. It changes. Their perception of who they are, what they can do, and how they examine and find themselves changes. Just like in quantum science, where this particle, these waves, these vibrations of energy, these tiny, tiny, tiny things that are zooming around us in this ocean of energy that we exist in, ocean of energy, what we see is that all of this stuff is essentially happening all the time, all around us, constantly, in a scale that is, frankly, too much for the brain to fathom. Everything from negative infinity to positive infinity, right? That's a lot of infinity. And what happens is that it's all out there simultaneously everywhere until the point that it is observed. Until the point that an observer pinpoints exactly where it is. And how do you observe? Well, it hits your eyes. It hits your ears, your tongue, your feeling sensors. We've got more than just those. I mean, there's a lot of other things going on in the body, right? We can actually detect, feel, and resonate with vibrational magnetic fields. The heart has a magnetic field 20 times stronger than anywhere else in your body. And that's the reason they say that the heart, in Chinese medicine, is really the center of the being. I mean, really. For a long time, they actually kind of thought the brain was just a throwaway organ when they were devising their system. We're talking like 3,000 to 5,000 years ago, okay? And they're going, look, the heart is more powerful than the brain. Of course, how do you test that? You cut someone's head off. Oh, they died. Oh, well, I guess it's a necessary thing for life, but it's still a useless organ. I love Chinese medicine. So, all this to say, bringing it back here, that your active experience is not just what you are in your physical form, because we can change that with this virtual reality experience. It's not just what you think of the outside world, because we know that what we experience in the body hits the brain faster than our cognition of it. In other words, if you've ever put your hand down on a hot stove and yanked it back before you ever knew, is it hot or not? Right? Because you don't feel the pain, you don't feel the heat, but you put it down and you know yank it back. Because there's something that runs up the nerves, that runs up all those connections that says, move it fast. I know because I wear glasses, and I've worn glasses since like the 5th grade, that riding a bike is a test for people like me in glasses, and bugs. Because you're riding the bike and you're riding really quickly and you're just trying to get somewhere, and bugs fly at you. And the thing is that your eyes will blink and block out most of the stuff that comes right towards there, because bees and bugs and flies all seem to always go around the glasses and get into my face. But I blink and I turn my head and I look away, and that's even not even being able to see the bugs. The reactions of the physical body are fast, and they do not really become part of the active experience. The active experience is the next step. It's when you're starting to think about things. It's when you're starting to do things. It's when you're starting to pull concepts together. For example, I'm going to ask you a question. And when I ask you this question, you are going to have a chain of thoughts enter your head. Since I've not yet asked you this question, you have not entered the state where this is part of the active experience. Your active experience right now, is waiting for it, the anticipation of it. But when I ask you, when was the last time you went fishing? Now, in your active experience, you have all of these thoughts that are trying to reach back towards memories, feelings, people, like ideas of people, places, things. There are thousands of influences that are jumping into your brain. And what happens is all of these experiences, all of these thoughts, all of these things are long time ago. Yeah, right, Teresa? Long time. Been a while since I've been fishing too. But it seemed like a good example because my grandma, my grandfather and my mom liked to go fishing in Chaparral Lake in Scottsdale. They stock it with catfish, so they always like to go fish that lake. But see, and that's the thought that comes into my head as I think of my mom, I think of my grandpa, I think of actually while they're fishing, riding around that lake with my brother on our bikes. Because it was great. We could do like 3 or 4 laps while they were fishing. It was a big old lake. Or we would take a walk. And I went, I caught crawdads in that lake. Like, these are all the things that flood into my active experience. All of these memories of things that happen and tangential things that happened because of those events all come into my active experience. And that's important because when I've talked before about the trauma that creates who we are, and trauma, it can sound like such a bad word, but really anything in your life that helps you make the decision of moving towards more satisfaction, joy, familiarity, happiness, and moves you away from pain, hurt, bad feelings, unfamiliarity. That's the spectrum that we're on, and the active experience is meant to inform your logical brain through kind of rehashing some of these fight or flight responses, some of these trauma reactions, some of the things that trained your body, your cells, your vibration, your being to be what it is. And it's really challenging because I've said this before, that when you're young, like even before you, at the point you were born to about age 7, your brain is in this super elastic theta state, which means it takes on information like crazy. And it's like a supercomputer, honestly. It is a supercomputer before the age of 7 because you are not fully baked as a person. It really is the training it takes to get your brain to understand your culture, your family, how to provide for yourself, protect yourself, how to survive everything. And we're living in an era where the old caveman ways, the old survival ways don't function the way that they should, or they function the way that they should, but society no longer needs that. So a lot of this stuff, as it comes up, it triggers different things in our being, different reactions, different emotions, different functional growth trajectories. It triggers different ways of being in us because it is based in this caveman way of being. So it all kind of bubbles up when you bring up an idea. Any kind of idea. That's the active experience. And when I say it comes up, I mean there are parts of your midbrain, limbic brain, it's kind of back here and low, and spinal cord that their whole job is to relay the communication from your cells and your organs through your body up into this non-verbal area of your brain, right? Really, the neocortex, the prefrontal cortex, the neocortex, all of that is really higher function. That's where you get language. That's where you get concepts of time and words and numbers and colors. Now, when you go deeper than that, there are survival instincts, there are concepts, there are ways to move about the world and think about the world, but they don't have words. They don't really have definitions. And that's really tricky because we're all used to having these kind of conversations. Well, maybe not these kind of conversations, but we're used to talking to one another. We're used to community and growth. I mean, we've been doing this for 10,000 years now. That's part of who we are. Our biology has adapted to rely on one another and this communication. And to be able to do that, we had to develop the neocortex. We had to develop a place where all of these emotions, all of these feelings, all of these strategies for life come up and have a place to sort of percolate and sit so that we can remember. I had a pain from this that was forever ago. Okay, well, that goes in active experience if it's relevant. And then I had an emotion that was really good feeling from another active experience from fishing, since we're still on that. And okay, this goes into the emotional. All of these pieces, as we're growing up, sort of break off and divide and go out into our body. And I sort of think of that as cellular memory, because we don't know where a memory is stored. We know that when a memory becomes active, that it hits our neuron, and the neurons create basically this bridge across the entire brain. And there are certain pieces that handle certain aspects, but what we're finding is that left and right, not necessarily logical and creative, they mix and match. Stuff happens in the corpus callosum that bridges both of those things. The corpus callosum is that part in the middle of the brain that connects the two hemispheres. And what they see is that when you grow that corpus callosum, when you switch logical, creative, not necessarily that the brain actually operates that way, but it does operate in two hemispheres. And when you grow that piece in the middle, it actually causes you to go back and forth faster. It creates larger neural networks across the brain and front to back. So what happens is then the brain is creating an active experience. The brain is taking all of this information from your past. And I tend to think it's coming up from the cells, it's coming up from the body that learned these mechanisms, that learned it in the limbic brain, that learned it in the midbrain, in the spinal cord, of here's behavior that keeps me alive. Here's behavior that helps me be happy. And all of these things come into the brain, and that becomes the active experience. That becomes, in this moment in time, what you are seeing and how you are perceiving the world. When I talk about the reticular activating system can shift from time to time, right? Because it's what you believe that you are going to see. You will not see something unless you believe you can absolutely see it. I just had a flashback memory of something that was basically most of society, our society right now. This is a tangent. I'll get back to active experience. I'll draw you a little picture and then I'll leave it there because that's what it's about. But I just want to share this for a moment because I want you to ponder this. I want you to think about this just a tiny bit. Just fathom it. If there was no such thing as science right now, how would the world be explained? If there was no such thing as politics, the way we have it set up, how would we be ruling? See, ancient Egypt, Mayans, Aztecs, I kind of think back further than Greeks and Romans, but them a little bit too. They have a different way of creating meaning in the world. And a lot of the Chinese texts, at least the ones that go back, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 years, they talk about the different way that they envisioned the world. And it's not that it didn't make sense. It made perfect sense to them. And what we have done is we've taken what we believe to be logic and created math and science and physics and philosophy and all these ideas about how the world works and ways to prove that this is how the world works because we've created these terms. But I just want to let you know, these terms, like mathematically we can prove things, absolutely. But does that mean it's real? I don't know. You see, when I tell you something happens in the midbrain and the limbic brain and the neocortex, I've studied enough of the brain and what people identify in sections of the brain to say, here's where these things are processing. But the idea of conscious and subconscious is just that. It's an idea. It is a useful metaphor for the way that we live, process, and think about our world. In much the same way that money isn't really real. And that's a funny one too, because money is just a representation of the value you feel for a piece of paper and are willing to hand over for something else. If someone feels like they deserve more of that paper, then you give them more of that paper. But then again, in our society right now, we don't really exist on paper. It's mostly electronic, which means that money really has no meaning in a logical sense. We hand over air for things. It's most of our world is an agreed upon metaphor for something else. The Egyptians were just as content. This is something to fathom, something just to think about. The Egyptians were just as content in their understanding of reality and life as we would be now. And we're not content. We're constantly searching for answers, and of course they were too. Everyone throughout the ages is constantly searching for answers, and we create metaphors for ways that we can understand the world and how it works. Before Western medicine, a lot of Europe followed like the humors, right? And that was how they diagnosed if someone was sick. And that's why they used leeches and things like that a lot. And that was standard practice medicine through the Middle Ages on up for hundreds of years. And it's just a metaphor for something that might be wrong. We're still learning, according to Western science, how meridians and points in acupuncture actually affect the physical body and where they are actually found, seen, identified on scopes. Because we've just barely gotten to the point that we can actually see these things in our physical structure, but they've been in existence, in concept, in metaphor, for 3,000 years. So when I'm talking about active experience, understand that I'm talking about a metaphor for your brain. I'm talking about the idea that when you have a thought, that there are hundreds and thousands of vibration, memory fragments, pieces, parts coming into your consciousness to shift how you perceive that very moment. And in the process of this, a couple different things happen. And here's what I'm going to draw for you. We're going to draw easy pictures today because I've got a really thick Sharpie and just a Post-it note. We're going to call this Post-it note our active experience. This is right now, here, now, everything that's going on, okay? And what I'm going to do is, where are you? There, you're right there. I'm going to draw a line right down the center, okay? And over here, this is backwards in the camera, so, you know, we'll do this so it's not an actual word. Little happy face. We'll do that. And then over here, okay, that's my sleeping guy with a little like spit bubble hanging out from his mouth. So he's sleeping. And the reason I'm doing this is because here's your active experience. And what we've got on one side is this is your conscious mind. This is the part that actually recognizes the pieces, the ideas, the memories, the triggers that come up that influence whatever you are seeing, perceiving, doing right now. And over here is the other than conscious mind, subconscious or unconscious mind. And it's not that they're sleeping, but that they are your unconscious or other than conscious part is listening. It is watching through your eyes and ears, but it is not controlling. It is simply participating by kicking back and going, yep. And what happens is that both of these throw in ideas, memories, concepts. There you go. So every one of these circles is a memory, essentially. And by memory, what I mean is that it's a moment in time where you had a feeling in your body somewhere that caused a strong enough emotional reaction within you that your brain basically took a snapshot of the moment. And that snapshot was the feelings going on in your body, the emotion that happened, that welled up, that you can kind of identify with it. And it's not necessarily even identifiable, nameable emotion. Maybe it's just, that's the emotion, right? Because it's not physically in your body. It's what you're trying to do to express the feeling. And the feeling is something that you can actually feel. The emotion is how you express, how you, right? And what happens is when that reaches a pitch, when it reaches a crescendo, when it reaches, a crest of a wave, your brain goes, something important is going on right now. And it takes a picture, a snapshot. And what that snapshot is internal feelings, emotion, plus sensory experience. So what you see, what you taste, what you smell, what you hear, what you feel on your skin, but also the feelings inside, the electromagnetics coming from the heart, the gurgling of the stomach maybe, any kind of sensory information going through the gut, the trigeminal nerve, which comes all the way across the face and down into the gut. It combines all of that, plus electromagnetic, but really more electro currents running through the fascia within your body. And the fascia is sort of like the tissues that connect the organs, separate organs, go around the muscle. It's all over in your body. And when we're talking acupuncture, this stuff is awesome because this is really the stuff that's carrying like ionization currents through your body and triggering things. Like, it's so cool stuff. All of this gets like right into a snapshot. And that snapshot is stored somewhere in your body, somewhere on a vibration level. And when I say that, what I mean by that is that your brain creates a protein or a series of proteins, a set of proteins, a set of just molecules that it releases into your body that goes to a cell that tells the cell to do something with it. And it could be changing your DNA. That would be epigenetics, actively changing your DNA because of an experience, a snapshot. That's so super cool. That means you can modify yourself to the better any moment in the day by having a better snapshot in your head, right? So what happens is those memories, those little pieces of you, and I've called them parts, because this is really what parts theory is. That when you have a traumatic experience, part of that experience gets stored as a piece of you, as a memory, an energy, an idea, a concept. And what happens is that this stuff comes back up when you have an active experience. Again, if we talk about having an active experience that is about fishing, then this is all of my memories that are active about fishing. And that could be included in my current moment. What is the wind like? What is the water like? What does it smell like? Do I smell salty fish kind of parts, or do I smell worms? Do I, how does the fishing rod feel? Is there a boat nearby? It's all of these kinds of thoughts. And over here in the subconscious, unconscious brain is all the times that I've been out on the water before. Suddenly I'm thinking about the times that I went out on the boat with my dad and he was diving and fishing and I stayed on the boat and the boat's rocking and I started getting really seasick. That's unconscious right here. And what happens is right down the middle is the disassociation line. Okay, move location, change things up. Now you got shadow here. Cool. So the two different factors that go into this are association and disassociation. And let me see if I can brighten this up. No, screen dark. Okay, never mind. Love this technology, huh? Association is essentially everything that's tied in. It's when I tell you something that has to do with fishing that it jumps in. Disassociation is this piece in the middle that says, it's not important, it's painful, I don't want to recall it. And the thing is that because your cells, because your memory, because the pieces of you hold on to that to keep you safe, your brain, the lower brain that doesn't actually have the emotions, it doesn't have the logic aspect of things, holds on to a lot of this stuff, the unconscious, the subconscious stuff. And when you have a thought, it throws it at you and it changes the directory of your reticular activating system, the directory of the direction of your motivation, the direction of your purpose. So in your active experience, we've got all the stuff of the conscious brain, all the stuff of the subconscious brain that determine how you think, feel, react in this moment, now, to everything. Everything. And the challenge there really is that we're trying to release the pain. We're trying to move past and through that, understanding that when it's in the past, we want to hold on to memory. We want to hold on to that knowledge, because that is the physical body embracing what is happening in the experience. And what we want to do is reframe, reset, turn down the pain. Because so much, if the unconscious, subconscious pieces are too overwhelming in the active experience, if they start to take over the conscious set, then that's when things like emotional pain. Maybe if you've ever had a part of you like backache or something, and every time something happens emotionally, you feel that pain in your back, or you feel that pain in your arm, or you feel that pain in your body somewhere. That's emotional pain. This is the stuff that's brought up by the unconscious mind and held on to. And this is the sort of stuff that hypnotherapy and some other therapies are fantastic at getting at. Because there's no real good way to talk to the subconscious and say it's okay. You don't really need to hold on to that pain. You are good enough, you are smart enough, you are fantastic at doing what you do. And you are so smart and so knowledgeable. Take all of these pieces that are you, that are so wise, that are helping guide me in a great direction. Hold on to those. Bring those to me. Integrate them into everything I am so that we always have this knowledge, right? That's great. Everything that you ever had, just ask it. Integrate with me. I want to be whole. I want to be happy. And you know what? Let's just take that pain and you can just release it. And that's the toughest part. That's the toughest part, because the active experience stuff, it wants to hold on to pain. It's meant to keep you safe. And that's the duality of this weird life, is that pain, that training, that trauma that you endure. The brain holds on to it because it thinks that by holding on to it, it keeps you safe, it keeps you prepared for the future, and it keeps you more satisfied in life. And if that's not the case, it's time to let it go. Feel it, heal it, release it. Hard to do as part of the active experience, because when it becomes active, you hold on to it. It changes how you view everything around you, because it changes the reticular activating system. It changes the metaphor of I want to see into here's the things in the background that have kept me safe, and the subconscious mind goes hold on to that to continue to be safe. It's tricky. And that's why RTT, I think, is a really effective therapy, because it goes into the subconscious mind and helps reframe, release a lot of that pain, and keep the knowledge, because the knowledge is really, knowledge turns into wisdom. And your goal is to enjoy your life, and you enjoy your life by holding on to wisdom, by gaining more wisdom, by finding things that make you happy, finding things that make you joyful, by releasing things and people and places that don't bring you joy. If this were the ancient world, and I'm not sure what the ancient world is anymore. Maybe that's Egypt. Maybe that's old Egypt, or old China. In the ancient world, we didn't have cities like we've got now. We didn't have sort of these apartments. We would be out farming and trying to figure out what we want to do with life and what makes us happy. Before that, it would be very Neanderthal kind of, caves and fire and trying to keep everybody safe. As a species, we're growing to new and new places where we rely on each other and we release some of this programming from the past. And when we understand the concept, this metaphor of the active experience, just embrace it for now and see that, you don't always need all the negative experience in that unconscious side of things. You don't need to feel the pain. You don't need to hold on to the pain. That trauma helped you gain wisdom. And that wisdom comes right into that active experience to help you see the world however you want to see it. And that trains the reticular activating system that says, I believe that the world that I want to see is great and happy and vibrant and friendly. And the reticular activating system says, okay, well, that's what you want to see. Let's go for it, right? Cool. So I guess that's all I've got for today. I thank you very much. I'm making some changes on my website. I'm making some changes about how I do things lately. I'm going to be making some announcements coming up. I'm not quite there yet because I'm still kind of experimenting and finding my way in this journey. So I appreciate you guys hanging in there. I appreciate you sending me the positive messages on Facebook, telling me to keep going, supporting me, and hopefully this information is just, continues to be good and helpful to you in your life, because you're worth it. Your life is worth it. Your experience in life is worth it. And every single day you are making it what you want it to be. And for that I commend you. Because you make the choices to control your life. And by taking control and really making it what you want it to be, then you're making the best of your life. And that's the best we can do. If you want to learn more about me, more about my process, my work, go ahead and check me out on www.thinktankcreative.net. And my main process is Manifest Design, which is all about brand transformation. It's finding your vision, your brand, your customers, and creating a vision that really is something you want to do, something you want to be, and the part of the world that you want to bring into life, bring into being. So thank you so much. I love you all. Take care. Maybe. I can't turn it off.